Hi, my name is Norma Jean. I'm with ESL International and Wycliffe Bible Translators Canada. Today I'll be looking at exploring the relevance of English language methodology to Naskapi L1 teaching. The purpose of this paper is to view some of the methods used in English as a Second Language, ESL, and explore how they could be integrated into Naskapi First Nations classrooms. Similar to the Naskapi First Nations students, many other First Nations students currently living in northern communities in Canada enter school speaking and understanding the language of their community. Some experience difficulty when they are thrust into a second language learning environment. Let's take a look at the Naskapi education worldview. They are learning by observation. Their elders are an integral part in a person's learning. The community functions as a whole, and life skills are obtained through storytelling. Some of the ESL methods that we're going to look at are communicative language teaching, the student-centered classroom, dialogue education, collaborative work, and reaching autonomy for the students. The Naskapi community of Kawawachikmach is located in the interior region of northern Quebec, Canada. The very remoteness of the community has aided the retention of the language and the culture of the Naskapi people. The Naskapi are part of the Algonquian language family, using the syllabic system of writing similar to Cree. As nomadic hunters, the Naskapi people often visited the Hudson Bay posts that were established around the coastal regions and interior areas of Quebec and Labrador. The majority of the Naskapi children in the community of Kawawachikmach enter school speaking primarily the Naskapi language. Upon entering school at the age of 4 or 5, they begin to learn a second language, English. Those that speak and understand their native language are entering the learning environment, grappling cognitively and linguistically as they endeavor to comprehend the learning tasks before them. The students often are required to process the spoken and written words in their minds, deciphering what is taught through both their first language and the language of instruction. The Naskapi children learn their language and culture from the community members around them. Many of the children are cared for by their parents and grandparents. Traditionally, Naskapi children learn by observing the adults in their lives and listening to the stories of their elders. Through these experiences, they gain the practical knowledge, understanding, and history of their people. This traditional method of teaching Naskapi children has been passed down from generation to generation. This watch-then-do approach is characteristic of many Native students. The oral tradition of storytelling and cultural methods of hunting, gathering medicinal herbs for healing and community cooperation continue to exist among the Naskapi people today. The Naskapi still preserve many aspects of their traditional way of life and culture. Like many northern communities, the Naskapi rely on subsistence, hunting, fishing, and trapping for a large part of their food supply and for many raw materials. The use of natural medicinal herbs are commonly in use for ailments. Traditionally, when hunting as a group, the person with the most knowledge and skill concerning the animal that was being hunted was granted leadership. This form of leadership has served the Naskapi people well for many generations. Since settling into the Schefferville, Quebec area, the government has required a chief to be elected to serve the community, but he or she does not make decisions with sovereign power. There are appointed council members who work together with the chief. Former Naskapi chief Philip Enish has stated, "In our society there is no one authority. As chief, I do not make decisions alone. I always consult with other council members and we meet with the population. Community meetings are often held where issues are discussed in an open format, giving ample opportunity for the populace to voice their opinions and concerns." First Nations people have traditionally passed down knowledge, culture, principles, and codes of behavior through oral traditions. It has helped preserve their history through the stories and teachings of the elders. In addition to learning lessons from the stories, children would also develop their ability to store and retrieve information from their short-term and long-term memories, as well as refine their higher-level thinking skills. Stories and legends are passed down through each generation to the children and young adults from their parents, community leaders, and elders that is absorbed by the people, bringing them insight and a deeper understanding of who they are as a First Nation individual and how they fit into their community as part of the group. The traditional Aboriginal method of educating children has been nurtured through thousands of years and is still found today in the oral traditions and cultural practices of the Aboriginal peoples. Children traditionally were taught at a young age that respect, wisdom, and knowledge were gained by listening to and observing their elders. Stories were used not only as a form of entertainment, but taught many values of the culture and valuable lessons in living. The elders served as role models in the children's lives, teaching them what is correct behavior in their community. The elders and other adults in the children's lives often would not interfere in the choices and decisions of a child, expecting him to make good choices based on the way that he or she was brought up. This allowed children a sense of independence and a place in the community. An elder or other adult would at times interfere in a child's actions only when they felt the child may be in danger to himself or others. Contrary to the commonly held misconception in traditional Aboriginal society disfavored competition, many of the games that the children were involved in were competitive. In competition, successes and accomplishments were praised and celebrated. This philosophy came from and contributed to the sense that the superior skill of an individual were the possession of the whole community rather than the individual. So if one individual developed extreme prowess at hunting, then the whole community benefited. This concept applies to many First Nations communities currently. When an individual obtains a university degree or acquires a job skill, many in the community celebrate the achievement, especially when that individual returns to work in the community. First Nation educators, healthcare workers, construction workers, and other highly skilled laborers are respected and become an integral part of the community. Traditionally, First Nation children have frequently learned by doing things. It is recommended that students have opportunities to physically manipulate, see, or hear about the concepts they are learning firsthand. It is very important for there to be opportunities for family, elders, and community members to become involved within the school and inside the classrooms. This involvement of family and community can provide a number of direct and indirect benefits. It can provide access to the wealth of knowledge that family and community members have. The positive role models would benefit and validate the students, as well as provide an acknowledgement of the school process for the students and community members. In the past, the Naskapi people often learned to read in their own language from a relative or a close friend. They would listen as the text was being read and at times follow along in a book with the person reading. Many learned to read while singing songs in church or at gatherings. Recordings of readings are now transmitted by the local radio, and people follow along in their own books at home. Incorporating storytelling in the lesson aids the students in detecting the changes that happen to words in context and also helps in increasing their comprehension and intelligibility of the text. Naskapi elders are highly respected and keepers of the legends, history, and cultural knowledge of the people. They pass this knowledge on to future generations through storytelling, expounding on scripture passages read in the church, and visiting with people. During gatherings, the elders are always given seating first, called upon to speak to the people, and asked to pray. At a gathering to discuss important issues, an elder is always given as much time as they need to speak upon the issue. Their experience and knowledge is highly regarded. Their wisdom is ingrained in the spiritual health, culture, environment, and language of the people. The elders of First Nations people are shown a special respect. He or she is granted a unique status in accordance with their age, knowledge, and wisdom. They are revered, and the people become attentive when an elder is speaking. Now I'm going to take a look at integrating traditional Naskapi learning styles with ESL methods. There are many effective teaching methods in the ESL classroom that would be beneficial in First Nation classroom students who speak their native language since birth and enter a school where communication with the students is in a different language. The following sections of this paper will look at the ESL methods that have proven to be successful with students who are expected to function well in a language other than their mother tongue. The communicative language teaching, CLT approach, is characterized by a classroom that is actively engaging the students in speaking, having an open venue that will allow them to voice their ideas and provide lessons that the students can relate to. In a First Nations school, it is important to involve the elders as teachers, allowing traditional teaching and learning to integrate with the strategies and methods used in the classroom. Using these multiple resources of cultural expert knowledge creates an atmosphere of diverse perspectives. Having a trusted elder in the classroom with the students could potentially help the students to be more willing to express themselves orally. This also reinforces and gives validity to the cultural knowledge of the students and the adults in the community. It connects the students with their past and makes that past relevant to the present and can have an effect on their futures. Encouraging autonomy in an ESL classroom involves students controlling their own learning by allowing learners to plan their own learning activities, monitor their progress, and evaluate their outcomes. Involving the students in the decision-making process of learning would engage the students and create a positive atmosphere that helps the student recognize that their input plays an important part in the classroom. The student-centered classroom is set up to help students become motivated in the process of taking control of their own learning. The students should not become dependent on the teacher. They should look toward their peers as co-learners who actively communicate with one another, value one another's input as they cooperate with one another and learn together. The students work with each other in pairs, groups, and together as a class. The instructor is available to give advice and to solve difficulties that cannot be solved by the students alone. A student-centered classroom encompasses the needs of the group and the individual. The instructor, in the role of facilitator, is to encourage the student to participate in the process of learning. The students work collaboratively with one another in group-based activities that facilitate cooperative learning. Using the model of Johnson, Johnson, and Smith, the elements of cooperative learning include individual accountability, mutual independence, interdependence, face-to-face promotive interaction, appropriate practice of interpersonal skills, and regular self-assessment of team functioning. When students are given the opportunity to view different learning strategies through the collaboration in the classroom, it may help them to adopt some of these strategies for their own use later on. Observing the different learning strategies while working with one another reflects the traditional lifelong learning of First Nation students. The concept of autonomy may seem foreign at first to some First Nation students. It is a method that has been traditionally used. A child is often taught how to acquire a skill he or she may need later in life through observation. Once that child accomplishes the task, they are no longer dependent on the adult that taught them, and often will administer that task in their own individual way. This gives them the independence and autonomy they need in their lives, but does not separate them from the community. Many First Nation adults willingly share the skills they have attained with those around them. Dialogue education is student-centered. The instructor challenges the students in their assumptions about learning and encourages them to be responsible for their own decisions. This correlates with the traditional method of learning of the Naskapi people. Children are taught by example by the elders and other adults in their lives, and then they are expected to make wise decisions based on their own observations. To gain autonomy for the students in the classroom, lessons need to be developed that get the students more involved in their own learning process. Using collaborative learning through meaning construction, information sharing, and information transfer tasks, the students work in groups on solving problems, discussing case studies, and role-playing. All the activities should involve the students working with one another in groups and relying on each other through the lessons. This use of group work aids in motivating students to take a more active part in their own learning. The Naskapi people have a long tradition of working together with each other as a group, relying on one another, and borrowing and lending to each other. Possessions are viewed in a communal light. There is very little hesitation among the people to share what they have with one another. This is clear not only in possessions but in knowledge as well. Sharing material gifts as well as their own intellectual abilities reflects the wholeness of the culture. The learning material should link what is being learned in the classroom to the student's life outside the classroom. Content needs to be introduced in the units of the course that is useful to the students and mirrors their own backgrounds and needs. Focus should be on the needs of the students with the goal of keeping the material relevant for the students. The textbooks used in the classroom may be used as a base for instruction, yet they need to be linked with the students' traditional knowledge, allowing the students, along with the instructor, to unpack the material and gain a better understanding of how the two worlds are able to function alongside one another. It is feasible to merge the First Nation traditional method of storytelling with ESL methods of learning and combine them with technology in writing and recording. Traditional methods can be integrated with different modalities and semiotic systems with understanding. Uniting both print and digital technology in the classroom has the possibility of engaging students in literacy and learning experience that will help motivate them to become more interested in learning. Communicative language teaching uses authentic materials that can promote the student-centered classroom. A student-centered classroom gives students ample opportunities to practice the language through materials that reflect real-life situations. Using legends and stories of the past history of the people and encouraging the students to create stories of their own will enhance the participation in the classroom. Effective instructors lead the students in learning, but also follow the lead of the learners. The role of the instructor should create an environment in the classroom that allows the students freedom to express their ideas and stories. Collaborative work enables the students to become more active in their learning, more independent in their decision-making, eager to share their ideas with one another and communicating with each other. When collaborative learning is new for some students, the teacher will need to work as a role model to the students using instructional conversation as she allows for wait time, feedback, questions, and uptake with her students. Dialogue education uses a collaborative work method through learning tasks that are designed to provide opportunities for the learners to become the decision makers in their own learning. Healthcare is an important issue in the community. Combining the students, elders, and healthcare workers in a field trip to gather some of the natural herbs aids the students in gaining knowledge that is passed down from generation to generation. The use of visuals will assist these learners in their writing as it reflects their own culturally predominant visual learning background. Bringing in healthcare workers and elders into the classroom during the lessons on natural medicine and letting the healthcare workers contribute to the knowledge that is being gained will benefit and link together the students with the adults involved. Many students in First Nation communities travel outside the community for medical reasons and to visit friends and relatives in other areas. Providing opportunities for the students to engage in dialogue and written activities related to their travel fosters collaborative learning. The students need experiences that foster engaged learning, creative thinking, and skills necessary to access new knowledge and solve problems in today's world. In conclusion, directing students to learn from authentic texts, such as written transcripts of stories told by their elders, is similar to an apprenticeship program which guides learners to become confident writers. Lessons based on storytelling transcripts could serve as a progression, bringing the students into the process of writing, speaking, and reading through the various activities in each lesson, helping the students to become competent as they acquire the skills they need. This helps them connect some of their previous knowledge with the new input they are receiving in the classroom. This creates confidence in the students that could possibly motivate them to finish well in high school and provide them with the skills needed to succeed in furthering their education at a university or continuing on in mastering the expertise needed for a trade. Many of the First Nations' traditional style of education should be included in the schools. This could possibly bring about more positive academic results for First Nation students. One of the traditional methods of many Aboriginal peoples is that all people, regardless of age, have gifts that can be shared with others and is necessary to respect, accept, and appreciate those gifts for what they can bring to the community. Thank you for listening to this presentation.